Hey guys, Broker Brett here. We are back with another season of the Attachment Point News Roundtable. With everyone coming out of COVID right now, I wanted to interview just some stellar agents I know. People are making noise in the space, building business, doing a great job, working remotely, working with what's going on right now. Our first guest on this new version is going to be Harrison Wicker with Insurance People out of North Carolina. He's been crushing it in the workers' comp space. He does a really good job on social media too. He's only been a producer for 3 years, but just seems way beyond that in his knowledge, his capabilities. I think you're going to learn a ton and enjoy hearing what he has to say. Thanks. Hey guys, Broker Brett here with the Attachment Point News Roundtable. I am super pumped to have Harrison Wicker on with me. We're old buddies. He's always running cool programs. He's been really hustling on workers' comp lately, but just a sharp dude. And thanks for coming on, Harrison. Excited to be learning from you and working with you. And how you doing?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Brett. Definitely excited about this opportunity. I've been good. Busy with a lot of workers' comp opportunities, some different stuff as we're coming out of COVID, but definitely an exciting time for a lot of new opportunities.
Yeah, we're actually at break time right now during an Arsenal game, so it's halftime, so it's perfect. Harrison's tracking his team, and we were just commenting how even that's different. You're saying water breaks, whatever else.
Yeah, I always take off. I schedule around Arsenal games, so I make a point of attending all the weekday ones.
That's why you and Billy Von Jura are such good buddies. That guy's a big football fan.
Yeah, he's a big footy guy.
That's cool. But yeah, Harrison, so I know lately you've been driving into workers' comp. I figured we could talk about that first a little bit, and then maybe the programs next. But what have you been learning? How have you been helping out your clients?
Yeah, so workers' comp, obviously there's been a lot of changes, around COVID, certain claims opportunities and challenges that might arise for companies. But definitely kind of a unique experience for a lot of brokers because, I've been doing workers' comp going on about 3 years now. But there's some new stuff for new people to jump on with a lot of different exposures, helping out businesses rather than talking about specific insurance, which is cool. On the contractor side, a lot of people are reducing payroll and whatnot. And obviously there's some different takeaways from that might not be the right fit, but
Yeah, it's definitely a dynamic sell. And, I've put my toe in workers' comp. I know there's a lot of people who hunt and live out of, dropping those ratios and just getting there and cleaning everything up. And then you mentioned Ryan Hanley had a really good pod too about some direct-to-consumer play, or what was he working on?
Yeah, I was listening to it this morning on his Ryan Hanley show. I don't know Ryan personally, but I saw it on LinkedIn, and it was a cool comp program, guy out of the Midwest. Don't know his name off the top of my head, but is working on a direct-to-consumer workers' comp program, which I think, the workers' comp space is definitely behind the times in commercial insurance and personal lines, like more so. You're dealing with, more forms filling out, a lot more challenges on the risk management side. So it's cool to see certain opportunities like that opening up for agents and kind of taking your chance at that.
Yeah, I got to dive in more. I know AF with like Abel Travis and Rob Galbraith, they're really involved there. It does seem like with like IoT, with monitors, everything else, there should be a way to get a better eye on, the granular data of just how people are doing in business, what risks they're coming across, what the health parameters are like.
Yeah, workers' comp too opens up a lot of different data points on businesses that you can see beforehand to make sure they're the right fit as a prospect. Whereas in, commercial insurance, you might only have access to X dates and, kind of just the basic knowledge of who their carrier is with. With workers' comp, you can really, as you get more into it, see exactly what they're paying, what the injuries look like. And, for me personally, with some of the middle market companies, I have a good idea of how much I can save them going in and tell them based on their workers' comp exactly what an injury cost them and how to improve on that.
No, that's cool. I know it's just such a big nut of any business. I got a friend with a closely held business. I want to say that workers' comp's $1.5 million on 50 million of revenue. Anything that's getting close to 2%. So I definitely want to keep an eye on. What are some programs you put in place, or how are you been able to help out your clients, with their loss ratios?
So kind of a new one that we're working on right now. Me and a couple guys on the team, Mitch and Evan, they at insurance people. We're working on the assigned risk market,
Okay.
which for a lot of people who don't know, haven't done a super deep dive into workers' comp, the assigned risk market is just kind of a forced place coverage.
Hmm.
So it's if you don't have a voluntary carrier that's going to take willing to take on your company, which you know 95% of the companies, I'm in North Carolina, 95% of the companies are going to be in the voluntary market, but
Hmm.
we see a ton of companies get placed there um, that probably shouldn't be there. So we're working on taking them out.
Yeah, for instance, one I came across was a solar installer, first year new business, was non-admitted at first, had to place it with state fund, and then on the renewal, we're going to try to move them over to more traditional, policy now that I got some work experience. So little cases like that, right? Something kind of,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and
cool.
generally they're going to have higher premium too. So you're looking at 2 to 3 times what they
Hmm.
might be in the voluntary market. Um, but so obviously they might be a smaller case than what you're looking at. But those business owners, workers' comp, they just see it as an expense,
Hmm.
as a check to write. So they probably never had that conversation. And oftentimes the carriers too, they see the assigned risk market as something they want to stay away from. So we're
Hmm.
working with our carrier partners to kind of shed light on that and take them out and make it less of a challenge moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. Something I haven't messed with, but some of Nick Lamparelli's podcasts lately were around setting up your own captive. So I always felt like for workers' comp, for like a big company, that's like one of the risks that seemed like would be a great fit for that. But that's the other end of the spectrum,
Yeah, yeah,
being
we've
around.
got access to a few captive programs which are neat,
Cool.
um, but yeah, more so on like the nonprofit, kind of hard to place, challenging comp side. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting stuff. That's one of the things I always love about this industry. There's always something to learn, something to grow in, and you've always been running some cool programs. I know you had the rental property program for a little bit. You mentioned youth sports when you got rolling out now.
Yeah, yeah, we're working with some new partners of ours on the concussion side.
Oh
So
wow,
on the athlete, directly with the athletes,
yeah, that's cool.
reduce concussions and kind of help on the risk management with coaches, parents, even trainers
Hmm.
might not have access to immediate tools on the sidelines. So yeah, we're focusing mostly on youth soccer, which kind of goes hand in hand with the assigned risk market. We see a lot of youth soccer leagues and associations there that shouldn't be there.
Mm.
So that's definitely going to be something to watch.
It's kind of cool too how it triangulates back to Arsenal. You're getting back to what you love,
Yeah,
what you're interested in. How many states are you running that program in?
yeah. So we're just doing North Carolina right now,
Okay,
but we're hoping to make it the East Coast. Insurance
cool.
people, we're licensed in 32 states, so we kind of build out where our programs go.
Hmm.
Um, as we get established and the carriers start writing the risk and are more willing to accept it, I think we'll definitely make a larger push. Yeah.
No, it seems like a really cool agency, and I was excited to see it when you made that transition. How long have you been in insurance now? I feel like yeah,
Yeah.
you're kicking butt.
Yeah. So I've been in insurance going on 7 years.
Oh wow, okay,
Um, Only an insurance agent though. I only got my license maybe 3, 4 years ago.
that's funny. That's about when we connected. Known each other a little while now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's been good.
yeah, no, heck yeah, man. And Harrison's one of the younger dudes I know in the industry who's just killing it, and just it's been fun. Our peers, a lot of guys are automating things, data scraping, making their workflows easier themselves, kind of working around the archaic systems.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to watch. Feel challenged by that in a good way. Um, but yeah, so are there any specific strategies you're doing as we're kind of coming out of COVID a little bit? Has anything changed your day to day, your prospecting? I know you were always a little remote too, working in North Carolina and Florida. So I don't know if it's tweaked your process at all.
Yeah. So the remote challenge, obviously, working largely with the North Carolina agency, um, obviously has some unique challenges because we're not really built out to write in Florida quite yet. More so on the property side because you have unique challenges with
Yeah, definitely.
being the coastal hazards. Um, But yeah, on the workers' comp side of things, NCCI um, and the North Carolina Rate Bureau kind of don't play hand in hand. So we're still trying to
Okay.
figure out strategies of how that plays in when you have interstate companies for workers' comp and being able to mainstream uh, access the data profiles that we
Mhm.
need. So for workers' comp on the back end, it's pretty cool. We're able to, use the Secretary of State information. Um, we've got a couple of workers' comp tools, MyEdge, and some other ones that we're able to data profile exactly what their mod looks like, their injuries, and be able to tell for sure whether or not it's going to be a preferred client.
That's cool. Yeah, it's kind of interesting too, going back to concussion risk, going back to, so it's almost like you're headed towards like a risk safety kind of, yeah, management angle for your personal practice and kind of how you're chasing business, what you're building out. And
Yeah, ultimately, I think that's kind of the end goal. In workers' comp, the premium's not great, and you want to make sure that you have the commercial carriers on the back end that are going to be able to write the rest of it. We'll write workers' comp standalone. We've got access to more than 50 carriers, so that's that's pretty cool. It helps us grow.
Yeah, heck yeah.
But I know a lot of agencies as well that I've been working with and talking to that might not have that access. So just really knowing what your carriers want to write and being able to gather all the information on the prospect before you actually even call on them can make a big difference on that sale.
Oh, that's huge. Yeah, I mean, I've been in that position too often, but when it's just basically a signature at that point or getting some approval, that's phenomenal. Nobody wants to deal with the paperwork. Before I got going in commercial, I didn't realize how hard it would be just to get kind of eyes and activity on a policy and kind of the inertia that's somewhat built in. So I think you have a great solve by priming that up there.
Yeah, and at the end of the day too, when you have your first prospecting call or meeting as COVID opens back up, it's definitely cool to not even talk about insurance in that first conversation. It's a different sell when you kind of take insurance out of the aspect. You're more selling on improving their culture, and Brett, I think you'll appreciate this. It's more based on their employee benefits.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's been fun and interesting to be around the benefits space at Maxwell and just, looking at retention, looking at holistic well-being of the employees, helping make sure they feel cared for, then they're less likely to have, an injury on the weekend that they come back into work with, all those little things to keep morale up and, keep everybody on the same page. That's cool.
Yeah. Employee benefits is kind of a newer market for me. But it's definitely opening opportunities when you work with clients to really make sure that, they're fighting for their employees. And obviously on the work comp side of things, if you're able to reduce costs ultimately beyond just the bidding and quoting and reduce their experience mod, that money more oftentimes than not is going back directly into the benefits package.
That's cool.
For the employees.
Yeah, no, it's especially small business. I feel like the circles we're working in, like they've known the guys for years. They care about it on a first name basis, know their families, they're rowing in the same direction, and I think that's just one of the cool things about working in small business. Is there anything, as we're coming out to, like you would recommend for younger agents, anybody kind of hitting the field for the first time, anybody really trying to build their business as a newer producer? And I think you learned over the past couple of years.
Yeah, so I'm going to do a huge shout out here to the Institutes
Cool.
of WorkComp Professionals. They're kind of, Preston and the rest of the guys there, Kevin, are really great. If you're a new producer, especially someone who's wanting to get into the workers' comp side, even if you've been a commercial agent or a personal lines agent for a while, can really help you set the processes up to where you're really hitting the ground running. I think what they do is really cool. But if you're new to workers' comp and really just trying to get into it more, I would definitely just have that conversation with your underwriters directly. What their sweet spots are, and like commercial insurance. I think workers' comp really niche down before you decide to broaden your markets.
Yeah, talk to underwriters. I kind of learned that while doing personal lines. If you have a question, just call them. They're so helpful, like surprisingly helpful, and kind of make heads or tails of things really quick for you. And I think everyone wants more focused work. That's why marketing reps or that, those guys will kind of give you a heads up on what you need to be chasing, what'll fit, what won't fit. It's a sea of niches, and, it's definitely a blue ocean. I feel like one of the cool things about insurance, there's so many prospects out there that we can help each other out, and we're not really going to get in each other's way too bad, so especially the little web we set up, and got to keep staying in touch with all the guys across the country.
Yeah, it's definitely cool. I think insurance agents need to be working together more times than not. Even if you've got a guy in your local space, they're more often times than not writing the same things as you, especially if you're niche down. So
Well, especially like in your age range, in your interest, and I feel like all the IAs are like, there's enough big companies to kind of where we can band together and work together, and it still makes a ton of sense. It's almost like we're fighting the Aons, and the Marshes and the Heffernans and all that. Like we have to kind of work together to get our own little corner of the block and take care of kind of newer clients, growing businesses.
yeah, you look at what David Carruthers is doing out of Florida with
Okay,
Florida Risk Partners. He's putting out a ton of content on the workers' comp side,
cool.
which I think helps a ton of agents. A lot of what he's saying are some of the same process I've been using. A lot of the cool things, though, that you really are able to implement are some of the marketing strategies he's using. So kind of thinks more so out of the box, which I think a lot of young producers have to do to be able to make sales.
Yeah, because it's hard to move the paper. You have to have a compelling reason. Somebody has to drop the ball. But if you can get a niche out there, if you can get your hooks in somehow, and then cross-sell so laterally, if it's the workers' comp, or impress them and you take over the rest of the book, say, hey, we're going to do X, Y, and Z for you, but we want the whole nut if we're going to be doing all this work over here on workers' comp. It's definitely a compelling argument. So,
it's definitely a new thing that we're working on, is just making sure that the only thing we need from the person at the end of the day is an agent of record letter, or seeing their loss runs updated, because sometimes in our system it might not be accurate, but you can more times than not get that from the state, and even see what their experience mod projection is going to be, which more times than not agents aren't having that conversation. If they're the incumbent agent, if you're wanting to take over an account and you have the access to that info and tell them before they hear it from their own agent, that's a huge way to get in the door.
That's cool. Or if they've never been updated on it directly by the agent, you come in and say, hey, you're going to be up 20%, down 20%. The hard market, kind of give them warning. Oh, that's huge. That's definitely huge. Who do you usually target when you're canvassing, companies, or when you're reaching out? Do you go kind of controller? Do you go kind of C-suite? How do you, approach a new business when you're trying to connect?
Yeah, so I'm looking mostly for companies that are going to have an HR, someone who's kind of running that department, or a safety manager.
Okay.
In the middle market space, small businesses might not have access to this, so you're talking directly with the business owner. But on the flip side, when you're getting into middle market and comp that actually has some meat on it, when you're talking with them, it's definitely eye-opening, because you really get more in depth on the risk management and safety practices they're implementing and maybe not implementing.
Right. Yeah, I think those are two great points of contacts. I mean, they're going to have their thumb on the pulse, and as you get more familiar with the benefits side of the house, that's going to be a great place to kind of work that into. Maybe sell them some extra technology that they might not be using yet that you can do complimentary. There's a lot of cool ways.
And at the end of the day, if you can improve those processes, that's a huge win for them, because it helps out, with job security for them. But they see you as a valued partner, not just an insurance agent.
Totally. Yeah. No, I think you got to provide value. I think you got to make sure they're working with the latest and greatest. Like you said, come in prepared to, be ready to answer a need. So you got the risk management, you got the sports programs. Any verticals you've been chasing specifically, around workers' comp?
Yeah. So particularly more recently with contractors.
Okay.
Because with COVID going on, a lot of companies have been reducing payroll and trying to reduce that on their workers' comp. For contractors, it might not make sense if they're bidding and quoting on jobs. So that's an important conversation to have. But more so, we're just looking for anything with a mod over 1.
Okay.
So if they've got any significant experience that's beyond just 1 injury, we can really able to go in and implement a safety procedure and maybe a return to work program that's really going to help them reduce their experience mod and significantly reduce their costs.
Yeah, that's cool. No, get rich in your niche, kind of figure out what works for you. And I feel like contractors are a little bit of a hustle one too, because they're going to need certs, they're going to need some other help. So if you're willing to
Yes.
kind of roll up your sleeves, it's a good opportunity there for sure. Any social media channels you favor over others? Any when you're doing your marketing, kind of things you lean on, things you tend to stay away from?
Yeah, I love LinkedIn. But beyond that, just doing a deep dive into the company. Um,
Hmm.
if you're able to really find a website, uh, d- dive deep into what they're doing, more so on a holistically, uh, operational level, uh, before you even have that conversation, you can run those kind of companies by your underwriter and say, hey, what would you implement differently? If you're a new producer, they might be able to give you a tool or a tactic that you might not have thought about,
That's
um,
cool.
which can definitely open up a door for you.
Yeah, so you're saying like do the homework, take it to your underwriters, take it to your team, get everything set, get different opinions on it, and then just go see if you can kind of with the business bring value.
Yeah, I spend like a quarter of my time just kind of doing a deep dive into companies. So myself and other members of our team will kind of pick different verticals that we want to go into,
Yeah.
and based on the information that we find available through the state and through NCCI, you can learn a lot of information about a company just doing that.
No, that's cool, man. I'll definitely take note and try to level up a little bit. Yeah, dude. No, I think we got some really cool stuff. We'll throw in the show notes so people can track down about workers' comp. Yeah, Harrison's an awesome resource. He's even helped buddies of mine out in California with a few questions. So definitely add him on LinkedIn if you haven't. But I appreciate you coming on, man, sharing how you're building business and how we're going to climb out of all this COVID goofiness. But we'll talk soon.
Yeah, Brett, it was fun. Thanks
Yeah,
for having me.
absolutely, brother. Do it again. Thanks.
Take care.